Here we go, guys. The DLC patch notes are finally here and I'm super excited to share them with you. So I've been a little bit sick this week. That's why you haven't been seeing as many videos. My throat's a little bit sore, so I apologize if I sound a little bit husky, but I have to share these with you. So I'm going to be putting the link to this in the description if you haven't already seen it, so that you can go and read all of the detail, because we're going to be going through it and focusing on the main stuff. We're going to be ignoring all the bump in this one. So if we take a little look, update, spring is officially here, bloody 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 blah, Knights of Cross and Rose. Now we've obviously got the variant civilizations, or as we all know by now, the new civilizations, because they're completely different. We're not going to be reading through all of these details because you'll be seeing all of that with the content creators preview, so make sure you go and check out those guys on Twitch. You know, Beastie's doing it, Wham and Lash, all of the big ones. I also saw Pilson was playing as well, so definitely go and check them out if you want to be seeing more of this crazy sort of stuff about the new civs. But we're going to be focusing on season 10, and as you all know, we're going to be starting with something that might be a little bit controversial for me. I don't know if I'm happy about it yet. It's not the portraits, it's the map pool. I haven't been a fan of the last few map pools, and this time I have actually prepared something for you. It's almost like, ooh, whoa, fancy, fancy. So I've made this little graphic to show what the map pool is changing from and what it's changing to. So this, I think, is going to be a little easier for people who don't remember all of the names. So staying from the previous map pool, we have Lakeside, Cliffside, Dry Arabia, Gorge, and Himayama. The ones that are X'd out, so Archipelago, Golden Heights, King of the Hill, Lipany, and Prairie, tongue twister, they're all gone, and we're replaced with these 5 at the bottom. So we got Migration and Highview, which we all know, and I was going to say love, meh. Then we've got the new Relic River. So this is one where you spawn on either corner, and then all of the main resources, relics, and sacred sites are all along the passable river in the center. Then you've got Enlightened Horizons, which, if this picture is anything to go by, you basically spawn right next to each other, and then you have the 3 sacred sites over by a big hill. Okay. And then we have Carmel, which looks like it's got some hills and some stealth forests and some trees. I have no idea. So this map pool then, I am not very happy. You guys know my favourite map, without question, without contention, is Lipany, so I'm really sad that that's gone. And you also know I hate Gorge and Himayama, and they're still here. I get the feeling, guys, that Dry Arabia, Gorge, and Himayama are now just considered standards, and I don't know if they're ever going to leave. And that makes me really, really sad. But, you know, so realistically, I don't play water, so I will automatically be banning Lakeside and Migration, and then I think that leaves me with 2 more bans. So I think because you get 4. I have no idea what I'm going to ban. Probably Himayama, and then I'll give the new ones a try, because some of these will have the new point of interest that we'll be reading about in a bit. Highview potentially could be okay depending on which civilization I go for, so I don't know, maybe I might just ban Migration, Himayama, Lakeside, and Gorge, and then I get a chance to play some of these new maps. That could be quite cool. But yeah, I think these new ones are going to be really, this Enlightened Horizons really makes me think of Forts. And that Forts makes me very sad. Relic River, I don't know if there's fish, so if there is, then, you know, fishing, I'm not a big fan, but if it's all down the center, potentially it could be quite interesting. Yeah, so I think gonna wait and see. Obviously, Cliffside and Dry Arabia being in, I'm pretty happy about that, but yeah, the rest, it's a big meh from me. I think these new maps, depending on how they play, depending on which civilization I go for, I think that's going to make a big difference to whether this pool is any good. Highview isn't the worst. It's, you know, it's a bit like marshlands and wetlands or whatever we had the other season. It's okay. I'll probably get quite bored of it, but do I hate it more than Gorge and Himayama? No, sir. Okay, and then we're going to also look at Team Ranked, because look at this. Oh, the pro editing that's going on here. So I've been playing a bit more Team Ranked, so I thought this time I do want to share that with you. So what we have staying, we have Dry Arabia, Gorge, Lipany, Prairie, and Danube River. Going are Lakeside, Cliffside, Hideout, Mountain Clearing, and Nagari. So, and then replacing that, we've got two standard ones, Water Holes and Volcanic Island. Water Holes has been in quite a few times. Volcanic Island is ultimate memes. And then we have Wasteland, Shadow Lake, and Enlightened Horizons. So Enlightened Horizons we just saw in the solo ranked pool. These two are actually unique for the team one. So it looks like we're gonna you share in Shadow Lake, you share one huge lake. I imagine one team on one side, one team on the other side. But if we see from the graphic, there's no sacred site icons here. So whether there are no sacred sites potentially, I don't think that makes sense. But you know, this is all we've got to go from at the minute. Wasteland, it looks like you'd spawn in the opposite corners, and there's sort of forest in the four corners with stealth forest around in a circle and sacred sites in the middle. So it kind of reminds me of Himayama and kind of makes me a bit sad. But all in all, I don't play water. So for example, Danube River, Water Holes, and Shadow Lake, I won't be playing. But Lipany, great. Dry Arabia, great. Prairie, I think, is also pretty fun on teams. Gorge, actually, surprisingly, I'm starting to enjoy a little bit more on teams because you kind of know how the gameplay is going to go, and it's much more aggressive. The games don't tend to go super long, which, you know, if any of you have played like a 60, 70, 120 minute 4v4, you know, getting some early aggression in, I think is pretty nice. So all in all, I think this map pool I can say is probably a lot more positive. Generally, for example, like mountain clearing, I'm glad that's gone. Hideout, I'm really glad that's gone. So again, I think it's going to be how these new ones, Wasteland and Enlightened Horizons, play in particular. But all in all, I think we've got a pretty good map pool, and considering my first thoughts when I saw all of these new maps when they popped up, I saw some real memes. But actually, I think this could be good. So again, I think it's all going to be how the meta changes and stuff like that. But all in all, with the team map pool, I'm a happy bunny. With solo map pool, yet to be seen. Let's keep it positive that way, shall we? Now, back to the old patchy patch notes. So we've just gone through that. So hopefully that's a little bit easier for everyone to see. So these points of interest, we're going to see a little bit more of this later, but basically, if you think of a sacred site like a place on the map where you have to interact with it, obviously you have to capture it, they're adding into some maps some new things. So there's new interaction. So imagine a sacred site, but you either need to fight something on it, or you need to collect something, or you need to garrison a unit there, or something like that. Basically, that's the idea. So they're clearly really trying to mix up the gameplay, and the devs in the videos that Beastie and that have done, they have really said they want feedback on this. They want to know what people think and whether they're going to expand it more or they're going to keep it quite limited. So they're really trying to experiment, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know how they're going to play. I still need to go through all the details and watch some videos and stuff, but you know, adding in new interesting dynamics, I don't think that's a bad thing. And if they encourage interacting with the map, it's the exact opposite of the Pro Scout meta, which I think is really good. So the fact that if you turtle, you lose potentially all of this value, I think is really interesting. Now, gameplay. Visuals, they've updated some animations and flags and stuff like that, so yeah, they do look really cool. I've seen some of the videos. The flags flapping in the wind look really awesome. I'm sure they're going to look great when my TC's on fire and I'm getting burnt to the ground. The horsemen and the crossbows and stuff, the animations do look really cool, but that's not what we're here for. We're not looking at these achievements because we're not achievement hunting. We're just going to be going. So they've updated the UI. So there's AI things and there's caster mode. Now these you'll be seeing in my casted games. You're going to be seeing Vizier points, you're going to be seeing Roost bounty, you'll actually be able to see Iobid age ups, which is really cool. So this is all going to be really great stuff that's just going to add a little bit of extra quality to those casted games. And for the tournament organisers, it means Cal's not going to need to have 20 different computers running so that he can have a tiny little Vizier point counter. So good for Cal and good for the rest of us as well. So let's keep going now to map changes. So there's some stuff about map things, but this is the one that we really need to be careful of. This, a new type of gold mine, tiny gold with 1,600 gold, is featured across several maps. So on specific maps, your starting gold or other gold veins, instead of having 4,000, if I remember the numbers correctly, which I usually don't, you get 1,600. So if this is one of the maps where it's in your base, this is going to be massive to gameplay. Like, if you're a fast castle civ, I've been doing fast castle with IABIDs, and that scares me. Because you'll basically hit castle, you probably got 500-600 gold left for your upgrades. You probably spent some of it while you're aging up, and then you have no gold. So then you need to go out and get map control really, really quickly. You're going to have to start towering up all of these golds and stuff. I think it's going to be... I don't know if it's a good thing, but I think they're clearly trying to do, or at least it feels like they're trying to do stuff that's going to force you out on the map more, because people have been complaining about turtling, having all the food under your TC. So gold is kind of good. But this is basically a Roos buff, because Roos don't need the gold. So your opponent is going to lose out because they don't have access to 4,000 gold. Roos can basically just get it themselves, and realistically, whatever they change with Pro Scouts, Roos is probably still going to do it anyway because it's such good value. So that also, I would probably say China Zushi, because they can supervise that 1,600 actually is a lot more than that. So again, they're going to be hit by that less, their opponents more. So, you know, but interesting dynamic. It's going to be interesting which maps, because it says across several maps. So I think, like the points of interest, it's really going to depend which maps in the map pool it's in, and then that's going to dictate gameplay. So it'll be really interesting to see. I can't wait to load up all of these maps when the DLC comes out next week. But these specific ones, it's about moving markets and stuff like that. Again, if you want to read all this gumph, that's absolutely fine. So now we've got some information about Carmel. So scattered gold shimmers beneath high mountain ridges filled to the brim with wildlife. With gold scarcity threatening to diminish civilization progress, nearby factions take the opportunity to seize as much as they can. I wasn't sure about this map when I saw the picture. I don't know about this. Gold scarcity. It's so unless you're playing a civ that doesn't need gold. Also, there's no market, so I'm assuming this isn't like Golden Pit and and actually it does have markets. But if you're playing Templar and you can't trade, potentially this kind of map could be really good, because you can focus on using some of their levies and other stuff. But we're not talking about little stuff like that, but you know, just thinking. So this one is clearly going to be much more gold limited, so it's probably going to be better to be more aggressive, get map control, and it's probably not going to be so turtly unless your civ has a really good gold bonus. So that could be interesting. Sunken Lands isn't in the 1v1 rank pool, so we're just going to ignore that completely, because that's what we're here for. We're here for ranked. We want to be competitive. So, points of interest are new neutral map features for players to compete over. These point of interest are unique capture points that civilizations can engage with from the very start of the game. Capturing a point of interest with a single unit will take a long time, but adding more units into the capture area will dramatically increase the capture speed. So basically like a sacred site, but from Dark Age. This is interesting, because if there's certain things that you can capture with scouts, maybe going double scout opening is even more viable because you get more sheep, but also you can find some of these on specific maps. So I think this is really, really cool. Also, this adding more units to increase capture speed, I think is really cool. I would love to see this with sacred sites, actually. Imagine Delhi, then you have the sort of choice. Do you put all 3 scholars on one sacred site to get it 3 times as quick, and then you shift over to one of the other ones, and then that gold trickle starts a little bit faster? Or do you spread them out and spread the risk and do it that way? I think that would be really super cool. But this sounds fun. So, abandoned outposts grants line of sight to the controlling player. Okay, so it's basically like a tower. So it looks like it's like a capture objective, so your opponent can take it off you. So, okay, you get some vision. Vision is always nice. If you know who you are, the line of sight and vision, I know that's your thing. You're going to love these. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Just some extra vision on the map. I also wonder how many of these, and whether they're like random, whether they're in the same location. That's going to make a big difference to me. If you know that the abandoned outpost is always in the same place, there's always so many, I don't think that's going to be so interesting. If you know that there's randomly 4 point of interest scattered on a map, I think that could be really cool. So, you know, we'll see. I haven't actually watched any of the videos with these used, so I'm really interested to see how they play out. So, the Lost Ronin. The controlling player can hire Ronin. One Ronin becomes available every 120 seconds, becomes stronger as the player advances in age, costs 100 gold to hire a Ronin, starts adding Ronin charges after 5 minutes game time. Starts adding Ronin judges. Ah, I see. Okay, so you've got to wait for the first 5 minutes, so you can't go immediately in 30 seconds and then hire a Ronin and go and slam it into your opponent, because I'm imagining it's going to be some sort of like samurai unit. But 100 gold for that unit's pretty good, and you can get one every 2 minutes, so it's actually not too bad. Obviously, that's quite a lot of gold early on in the game, but having somewhere where you can recruit units like that for quite a low cost, depending on how strong they are, I think that's actually quite good. So this would be one that you definitely want to make sure you secure. And if the timing is right, you do want to be careful that you don't get it captured by your opponent just before the next sort of Ronin appears in the little house that we've got, because then if you've been waiting 1 minute 50 seconds, they capture it and then they take the next Ronin. That would be really annoying. But that sounds pretty cool. I also like that they improve as they age up, so I think that's really nice. Cool, I like that one. That's good. Merchant camp. Controlling player receives a trickle of resources: 15 food, 15 wood, 15 gold per minute. Okay, so it's like, what's that, basically like one villager split over food, gold, wood. I don't hate that at all. I think a little bit of this passive income would definitely help. I think it's definitely something you'd fight over, because any sort of passive gold, especially early on in the game, can make quite a big difference. So me likey. I think that's quite cool. So Forgotten Ruin. Is this the one I heard about? Yeah, this one I think sounds a little bit nuts. So the controlling player may garrison a villager to excavate. So you can put a villager inside. I'm guessing you can put more villagers depending on how many you want to do. So you get 60 stone per minute. So if you're wanting to go for a town centre or a keep or something like that, this could be really good. After 6 minutes of uninterrupted excavation, a relic is unearthed. The ruin is exhausted. So for 6 minutes, you can get 60 stone per minute, which, if I can do quick maths, which we all know I can't, is 360 stone. So actually that is enough for a TC. And then you get a relic. So that's nuts. Because imagine if you're fast castling, let's say you're Zhu Shi, you can fast castle and hit it just after 6 minutes or something like that, or you're doing a fast castle Civ, you could actually time it so you could basically run over and grab an extra relic on the map and get enough to add in a TC in castle. Oof, that sounds a little bit scary. It's pretty cool. Obviously, you've got to sacrifice 6 minutes of villager time, so that's a lot of resources you're spending to potentially get a relic, and I think this uninterrupted is going to be the key. If somebody comes and interrupts it, stops the villager, that starts again, and then you're losing all that value. So it's actually a really big investment if you don't have units to defend it. So that's high risk, high reward, it sounds like. So we've got a wolf den. Periodically spawns wolves up to a cap of 5. Okay, annoying wolves being more annoying. Wolves start spawning after 5 minutes of the game, so the first 5 minutes we can chill and get to feudal, unless we're playing against the Mongols, and then we're already having a bad time anyway. And then instead of being a capture point, the wolf den is destroyable. So at 70% health spawns 2 wolves out of raw desperation, and at 30% starts burning, spawns 2 final wolves and grants 150 gold to the attacker. Right, so once it gets set on fire, it's like the Mongols get that stuff back, so 150 gold, and then it stops spawning any future wolves. So you need to just take it down to at least 30%. So it sounds like, to be honest, fighting 5 wolves, it's a lot of investment early on, but obviously 150 gold is good. If nobody bothers with this and you happen to be Templar and you have Teutonic Knights, which get the increased health for every kill, including wolves, this could be really cool, because then you could kill 5 with 1 unit because they're super tanky. So kill 5, then you kill the extra 2, then you kill the extra 2. That's 9 kills. So what's that? An extra 45 health on one of your Teutonic Knights? Just saying. That sounds pretty cool. So affected maps. Okay, so Enlightened Horizons. Merchants spawn adjacent to player bases, Ronin spawn. Ah, right. So each map is going to have specific ones in specific locations. I don't know. I kind of like it where, like, if you think about sacred sites, Gorge, they always spawn in basically exactly the same place, so you don't really have to scout them because you don't know where they're going to be, and your gameplay is kind of pre-planned. If you're playing on, and also like Himayama is exactly the same, if you're playing on Dry Arabia, they spawn generally in the center, but sometimes they're in a line, sometimes they're round in a circle. It can be all over the place, and I quite like that because you actually have to scout, and then if you interact with sacred sites or relics, you do have to plan how you're going to move, where your defenses are going to be. I think that's kind of cool. So this, knowing that they're going to be adjacent to your base with the merchants that give you basically passive income, and then the spire in the north gets the Ronins. I don't know about that, but that's fine. It's only one map. So High View, Abandoned Outpost. So that's the one with vision, isn't it? If we go back up here, Abandoned Outpost. So on High View, that kind of makes sense because of all the stealth forests. So actually having a bit of extra vision would be really, really cool. So actually this one I think is a good addition. Land Mega Random, and Hedge Maze we don't have, but so we're going to be basically getting to see the merchants and the Ronins as well as the abandoned outposts in 1v1 ranked. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. I think High View really is going to synergize well, and most people would agree that having more vision on High View is never a bad thing. Fighting over those outposts will be really interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how you capture them, how many units you need, how long it takes, that kind of stuff. I'm kind of excited for that. So let's give it a go. Moving on to the balance patch. Balances, bug fixes, all of the insects. Let's have a look. So villager repair rate of siege engines reduced by 20%. So they're going to take longer to heal up. So if any of you actually ever remember that villagers can heal up your siege, which I never do, it's going to take a little bit longer. Stonewall towers cost decreased from 300 to 250. Nobody is making stonewall towers. It's still not going to happen. If you don't know, the reason that you don't want to make them is because they're torchable. So what's the point? You have to put them on the outside of the wall and just any unit can torch them down, which just makes no sense. So they're rubbish. You get the free emplacements and all of that, fine, but there's just no point because you can torch them down, whereas the whole point of a stone wall is that they can't be torched, so they have to have rams or siege or whatever. So, nah. Springboards. So I was expecting this. Springboards have been super, super strong. This is basically what I was suggesting. It's not exactly. I kind of was expecting them to be a little bit more dramatic. But basically the base damage has been decreased by 2 and the bonus damage against melee infantry has been increased by 2, because the problem they were having was the base damage was so high they were able to, once you had like 5 or 6 of them, you could also just really easily kill crossbows. So now this is going to reduce the damage against crossbows by, let's say you have 5 springboards, it's going to be 10 less. So potentially that break point, you're going to need maybe 7 or 8 springboards if you still want to do that. So obviously mangonels are better in that case, but obviously if you've seen the way I like to use them, you can actually just mass springboards and that's still pretty good. So I think this is really nice. It's going to make them more focused on what they're supposed to do, but they're still really viable. I really like springboards as they are at the moment. I think, you know, there's no more of those games where English just has 30 men at arms and I have nothing I can do against them. Springboards are a really good counter to that. So yeah, I think this is a good change. It's a needed change, even though I don't like seeing springboards any weaker at all. Now this is the one everyone has been waiting for. Let me check who's waiting. Everyone. So professional scouts. We've all been waiting for this, and I've been playing a Civ specifically so I don't really have to interact with it. After getting to Conqueror, I know, yeah, I know. I started playing a bit of Byzantines and some other Civs, and then that's where I really noticed how terrible it was. So I think this definitely needs to change, and I think the whole thing is that it's too easy and it pays off too quickly. So I think actually these changes are really good. So it's been increased from 100 wood 275 gold to 150 wood 300 gold. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but that early in the game to get that extra 75 resources is actually quite a lot. So that's like another, what, 2 minutes of villager time, something like that. So this is good. And then the movement penalty for scouts carrying carcasses has gone from 40% to 55%. Now, last time I think they only decreased it by 10, so this is another 15% on top of that. This is really, really good. It's going to mean, I don't know the exact speed because as we know, I don't do numbers, but it's a lot slower, which means you'll be able to kill them more easily if you've got cavalry, if you've got horses, or if you've got knights, or even potentially spears, especially like HRE that are faster. You're actually going to be able to catch the scouts, which means it's going to reward you for denying that, and the opponent is going to have to maybe do a little bit more of that scout micro you see at the top level where they drop carcasses and run away and all that jazz. But also, even if you don't deny it, because the scouts are much slower, it's going to take much longer for it to get back to the TC, which means it's going to take much longer for it to pay off, which I think is really good. So then they maybe have to make the choice of, do they go for their safe deer first because they want it back as quickly as possible, and then they go for the exposed deer? And by that point, you've got much more possibilities of counterplay, whether you go 2TC, whether you go fast castle, whether you just go feudal and make tons of units and then they can't get scouts to it. So I don't know if this is going to do the trick. I haven't used it enough. I haven't played against it really that much to say, yeah, it's going to make this huge difference. But it feels like stuff like Mongol trade, Abbasid TCs, fast castles for HRE, stuff like that, potentially will be a good counter to this because it's going to be that little bit slower. But the people who pro scout are still going to pro scout. Rus is not going to care about this little bit of extra gold because they get it for free anyway. They also don't have to pay villager time in the TC to make scouts. So realistically, Rus will still do it, China will still do it, Zushi will still do it, probably French as well because the tech's cheaper, so they also, this increase is also discounted because French get that, you know, that kind of thing. So, but it's kind of where the tech should be. Some civs should want to do it because it's really beneficial and it works for their playstyle, it works for the bonuses they have. Other civs shouldn't do it because it doesn't make sense. So when you see English players going pro scouts, you know the tech isn't quite working right, because why should they when they've got super cheap farms? Just, that's my thoughts anyway. So I'm really excited to see if this is going to work. Now, town centres can now see through Stealth Forest. This is a really nice quality of life change. I really like this one because if you're going 2TC or whatever and you're on like Highview or Marshlands or whatever, not being able to see through the Stealth Forest just makes your TC super vulnerable, which it already was anyway. So just having that vision on Stealth Forest I think is just really nice. So I like this. This is nice. Empire Wars, whatever. And naval updates, we don't play water, so something about formations, blah. Okay, so let's get down to the Civ specifics. Abbasid, my old friend. They now get a UI widget so you can actually see the Golden Age. This is really nice. But having to go to your House of Wisdom every time just to double check what your Golden Age is and what the bonuses are, this is just going to be such a nice little quality of life. I really like this. It's super simple. You can just hover over the widget and click it to select the House of Wisdom. So this is also really nice. You don't have to really worry about hotkeying up your House of Wisdom if you don't want to. You can just click on that button. I think that's really nice. So, but this one is the interesting one. Traders are now trader caravans or trader camels. So basically, they move faster, but the gold they generate is less. And this is something to do with the calculation that they basically generate the same as the normal traders now. So if your trade route generated 100 gold a minute, because it's about how many resources per minute, then now with this increased speed, it still generates 100 gold a minute, but obviously it will show less per trip because it's faster, you know, that kind of thing. So they got that. Health's been reduced, but they've got the camel unease ability. This is big. This is big, 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 big. Not just because I'm a camel lover. Sounds a bit weird when I say it like that. Because they're faster, which means you're not going to make infantry to kill them because infantry is going to be too slow. So you have to make cavalry. But having the camel unease ability means that it's going to be really hard for the cavalry to kill the traders, and they're going to get to the trade post much more quickly, so actually it's going to be much harder to deny, which is good. I think this is nice. I think it's giving Abbasid some more flexibility. It's going to mean that maybe trade wings back on the menu. Yeah, I think this is really good. Also, if I remember that in feudal you get the armor ability, so that would also mean that although the health is reduced, you also get the additional armor, which then makes them extra tanky again. So, you know, potentially going feudal trade wing on some of the maps if the trade posts are really good, this could be a winner. So I think this is really nice. Realistically, they should have always been camels. I think having the camel unease ability is just really good. It's very Abbasid, so me likey. Byzantines. Now, I love Byzantines. They're my old favourite. I played them when they came out. I played them in the hard times. I played them in the good times. I played them terribly all the time. They're down. They're done. So the first one, Stonewall Mangonels, that nobody makes Stonewall Towers for Mangonel emplacements, guys. Let's just pretend we don't need to read that. This is the big one. Cisterns no longer scale depending on the number. So before it was like 50, then 100, then 150, then 200, then 250, and then everyone after that was 250, or it was 200 cap or whatever it is. They're now all 125. This is huge, 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 huge. It's level 5 huge. It means you don't get a cistern immediately in Dark Age. And even when you build your 3 buildings that you normally need, you still don't have enough, because you get 8 per building. So your mining camp and your house, and let's say you build a second mining camp or a lumber camp just to get the stone, you get 124. So you can't get it immediately. And basically the way it worked before was the timing was that you would get your first cistern immediately in Dark Age, and then when you hit Feudal, as soon as your landmark finished, you would have enough passive stone to drop your second cistern, and then you basically had your 2 cistern network set up immediately in Feudal at like 4 minutes. Now we're back to the very, very old days, the original days where you didn't start with stone. You're going to have to mine stone if you want your first cistern, or you don't have a cistern and you lose like 15% gather rate, which is also insane. So this is going to change a lot. It's going to really, really slow them down. And I would say their opening wasn't exactly the fastest anyway. It's going to make Mongol tower rushes even more painful because you won't have Architoy unless you get the stone, which means then you're slowed down doing any other type of defending or counterplay that you want to do. So maybe we're going to see people doing like an Ottoman villager pull, sending everyone to stone, getting the 25 or whatever you need, and then running back to the TC. Maybe we'll see people mining it out and going level 3 and just sort of slowing that age up down, but for that extra eco boost. Maybe it's going to be more 2TC and you just ignore the cisterns for a bit and you go in really super fast 4-minute TC and then go from there. I don't know, guys. This feels bad. I think Byzantines are it's gonna be tough, really, really tough. Yeah, I'm really sad about this one. I'm not gonna be playing Byzantines, but yeah, they just buried my boy, and I'm not happy about it. But let's stay positive. Let's keep going. So I'm not gonna read all these numbers. If you want to pause now, you can see them all here. But basically, it looks like they've just reduced the oil cost of all the different mercenaries. So this is good. This just means I think they're compensating the fact that your start's going to be a bit slower. It's going to mean that you can actually get your mercenaries that little bit faster. So we don't have them here. These are all the ones from the markets as well. So realistically, nobody's going Chuganu. If you are, you're memeing and it's a bad choice and you don't want Chuganu. But the war elephants are good. I love Royal Knights. So having those 20 oil cheaper, nah, it's not going to make a huge difference. But this, I'll be really interested to see how much that hits, because I'm a bit worried about my Byzantine boys now. But as I'm not playing them, weaker Byzantines means weaker enemies, and that's what we're all happy about. So let's go. Chinese Nest of Bees. Health reduced a little bit. Number of projectiles reduced a little bit. Projectiles granted from additional barrels has increased. So basically the base damage they're going to do is going to be lower, but when you get the additional barrels, it's back up to what they were before. So I think it's just early on, if you get Nest of Bees at the right time, you can basically shred everything. They're trying to make it so you can get to that, because obviously we don't have counter siege. So you actually have to get on top of the Nest of Bees, which can be a little bit tricky sometimes. The Great Wall Gatehouse, now adorned with 2 emplaced Nest of Bees instead of its default weapon. Uh-oh. What? So you've got controllable Nest of Bee emplacements on the Great Wall Gatehouse. Oh my god. This, I don't know whether I'm reading it wrong or this just sounds absolutely cracked, but yeah, to be honest, if I'm playing against China and they get the Great Wall Gatehouse, I'm already in trouble. It's like if a Berkshire drops. The problem isn't that Berkshire's crazy, it's the fact that I've let it get to the point where they're dropping Berkshire. But I really would be interested to see how this plays out. I can't wait to cast some games where somebody can get the Great Wall Gatehouse for me so I can see it in action. On to Delhi. Fishing boats. Okay, fishing boat damage reduced, so now they're even more pointless. They do an extra damage against ships, so meh, I don't know. Yeah, so fishing boats can shoot other ships a little bit, but really they're not powerful enough to do much, so yeah, I don't know. Fishing boats for Delhi. If you like fish and you like Delhi, then you know, feed your fish to the elephants and they'll be super strong. I don't know, maybe that oil will make them, give them stronger bones and more armor, who knows. But anyway, better fishing boats or slightly varied fishing boats for Delhi. HRE. Now I've heard about some of these and HRE just sounds insane. So as we all know, HRE was the bottom tier Civ. Nobody was playing them, terrible eco, terrible units, and so they just really needed some help. And the devs have really delivered. They said, you know what, HRE's super weak in Imperial. You know, with all of that passive gold they get from relics and you know, the super strong infantry, they just don't have enough units. They're just not strong enough. So let's give them a new one. We've got the Black Rider. So it's very expensive. It's a heavy gunpowder cavalry. It's a hand cannon on a horse with armor. Yep, that's what's happening. So you can can only train 5 per standing keep. So okay, so basically this is encouraging HRE to put more keeps down on the map with relics in that get extra shooting power, and then you can get more of them. Okay, team games are going to be super fun if you're against HRE. But basically they also have this ability, the, I don't know what that is, Caracole. Basically they move faster and they can fire while they're shooting, but they can't fire behind them. So they call it like a hit and run. I saw the tooltip thing. So basically they will become like Mangadai, but they can only shoot in front of them. So you kind of have to circle around, but they're hand cannons. So they're going to do crazy damage. And so, but the good thing is because they're heavy, they will actually get hit with bonus damage from crossbows. Because they're cavalry, they'll get hit with bonus damage from spears, so potentially they're going to be a little bit more squishy than or a little bit more killable. But you know, elephants are also heavy cavalry and we know what they're like. So the fact that they're limited to 5 specifically tells me they're going to be absolutely insane. They sound like the worst kind of Imperial raiding unit you've ever heard of. So yeah, that's going to be fun. They've got a new Castle Age unique technology. I'm guessing that's what UT is, not a UTI. So the Cistercian churches, and then 75 wood, 200 gold. So this is nuts. So if you like Archon and you think, hey, do you know what? One Archon isn't enough. I want to be able to make an Archon wherever I like on the map, and I can put as many of them down as I like, then this is what you're going to do. Basically, your monastery becomes a drop-off point, so it's also, you can put a monastery next to a huge gold vein. It becomes the drop-off point. You can put a prelate inside, and it inspires as an aura around it like an Archon, and I think it's 1 tile less. What were they thinking? This is insane. So obviously, if you're a really good player and you've got the prelate micro, you can keep prelates in the right locations and stuff like that. But basically, instead of putting a 50 wood mining camp down, you can put 150 wood monastery, or 200, whatever it is. But then you can put a prelate inside, which you're going to have anyway. And then you inspire them all. So basically you can have a monastery, put farms all the way around it like a granary, and it's like an Archon, but you can put it anywhere you like on the map. So yeah, this is absolutely nuts. And they can also be trained to go in there like Delhi Scholars, where they go immediately in for the researches. Yes, and it works on the Regnits as well. So when you age up, you can stick your Regnits like an Archon on like your gold and your wood or wherever you want it to be, and that will then also become a buff. Yeah, this is insane. Why would you ever go for Archon now when you can basically get to Castle Age, rush Castle, and then make mini Archons all over your base? Because you're also going to want relics anyway, because you're going to go Regnits. So then you go Regnits, you've got an Archon. Then you put 2 monasteries down on your stone and your gold and on a deer pack. And so you can literally plop it on a deer pack. The deer will continue to move back to the center because that's how they work. Then you kill them and you've got basically deer all around a monastery that's inspired by a prelate. Someone comes to raid you with a couple of units, pop the prelate out, heal up those villagers, put them in towers with relics. Ah, this sounds insane. I love it. It's almost making me want to go back to HRE. It's yeah, really fun. Burgrave gives infantry plus 50% increased charge damage. So it's now, if you go Burgrave, you also get the charge damage. So, come on, Burgrave. I don't think... certain maps, yes. If you've got fish, if you're on prairie, blah, blah, blah. But Regnitz is Archon now. And Archon was already the best. And Regnitz is already crazy. And so it's like, now you get double gold from this, wherever you put the relics. And then you put a prelate inside and it becomes an Archon. This is just wild. Absolutely wild. Palace of Swabia discount reduced from 20 to 10, so obviously it's still cheaper than the other one, the Elsbach. Don't know why, but it still is, but a little bit less. But now you get these units in Imperial. Going Elsbach may actually be the right call, because then you can get 8 of those Black Riders, and theoretically they're really good. But if you can do 8 times 150, that's a lot of resources, so you're going to have to really have the eco to get that going. Devoutness gather rate bonus reduced from 10 to 5% construction bonus unchanged. So this is the Imperial upgrade, if I remember, where they get an additional 10% when they're inspired, and then they get also when they're inspired they build quicker. So obviously they're reducing that because everything's going to be inspired because of mini Archon technologies. So Elsbach, the damage reduced has actually been reduced. Wow. So they, instead of reducing it by 33, it's been reduced by 25. And then, yeah, keep supports Black Riders. So HRE guys, be scared. Be very, very scared. I think with the right build, with the right fast castle, theoretically, this is going to be nuts. So I can just imagine, okay, just theory crafting while we're here. You rush castle. As you're going to castle, you get 4 prelates, 5 prelates. You send them out immediately on the map, grab relics, and then you come back to your base and you just start dropping monasteries. You put the relics in, you have four monasteries and a Regnitz around your base. The whole entirety of your base, every single villager is fully inspired up. You got 5 double gold relics. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds cool. I know HRE enjoyers, you're gonna love it. But let's keep going. Japanese? Hello? Okay, there's no love for Japanese. They fixed a bug where Yoroshiros wouldn't go in dock production. We don't play water, so sorry mate, don't care. Fixed a bug causing stone wall towers to take longer to construct than other civilizations. If you're building stone wall towers with Japanese, you've got bigger fish to fry. You're having bigger problems, mate. So yeah, Japanese, nothing there. The telepathic falcon that could block charge attacks, was that a thing? That he would like telepathically fly the falcon into a charging knight? I've never seen that before, but apparently he doesn't do that anymore. And then something about improved an issue with the technology. Again, Stonewall Towers. So clearly they're wanting to try and get some Stonewall Tower play. We ain't going to be doing that, guys. And then this one, Roos nerf. So bounty requirements. Tier 2 bounty has been increased from 250 to 400. That's a big leap. Tier 3 bounty from 750 to 1000. So because I think with Pro Scouts and all of that, they were getting up to their higher tiers super quickly, and obviously they get really good gather bonuses and passive gold bonuses and all of that. So changing this, is it going to slow them down? Not massively, but it's the tempo they get and how quickly it builds up. It might just be slightly stretched out. So they're still going to get the gold, they're still going to get to castle, or they're still going to do whatever they want to do, but they're not going to get these bonuses as quickly. So getting up to here is going to be much harder. So that should hopefully mean that they need to go longer or work harder, or potentially even mining gold, you know. But yeah, so I think this is good. I think Roos needed a little bit of a tweak. Ayabids, they've also got the Golden Age widget, love it. They've also got Trader Caravans, love it. Atabegs, yeah, Atabegs, sure. Master Smiths, now you get the military academy for free, so I think that would also be in feudal. Honestly, guys, meh, it's fine. It's not really that much better. And also, yeah, you get 33% faster production. What, in feudal when you have one production building? Like, yeah, I don't know. Sure, okay, but Master Smiths, again. But industry wing, they've heard us. They've heard that the ultimate wing is industry, and they've decided to, for the believers, they've given us an extra boost. So they grant the villagers, but now also grants villagers. There we go. It grants faster construction speed. So, okay, I'm being completely sarcastic. In feudal and castle, I don't think it's really the play. Maybe in castle, if you know you need to drop a TC, you get a free TC from it. Meh. But in imperial, if you, with all that stone for like keeps and all the wood, and being able to build stuff 50% faster, that theoretically could be pretty good, especially if you're like walling up the map or stuff like that. I don't know. It's good in imperial. Otherwise, I'd much rather have dervish and camels, to be perfectly honest, but that's just me. I'm a camel lover. Fixed an issue where village gathers wouldn't affect all villagers. Yeah, so in imperial, the growth wing gives you gather rate bonus. It's like 10%. What? It would affect all villagers, including enemies? No way. So there's people have been playing games where they've gone for growth wing and it's given their opponent a 10% gather buff. That is insane. Love it. Fixed an issue where the growth wing gather rate enhancement did not apply to newly produced villagers. I've heard about that one. So basically, if you got 100 villagers, it would apply to those 100, but any new ones you build after that, even if like someone kills 50 villagers, as if we'd ever let that happen, then the new ones also don't get it. So that's good. Fixed an issue where the passive mass heal ability was always shown for dervishes. So yeah, so this is the one that you only get through the age up. So nice tweaks to Hyppippee. I don't think it's going to change much of their gameplay, but you know, having some of these little tweaks, I think that's fine. Order Dragon, Swabia discount changed. That's it. It's exactly the same. No inspiration buffs, so Order is just going to stay exactly as it was. So the Gilded Boys are just going to men-at-arms themselves away, I guess. Zushi, they now have access to additional barrels, so this is exactly the same as China now, so they're going to have the same nest of bees. So I think that's pretty cool. And then ongoing investigations, blah 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 blah. We did it, guys. We're here. DLC. Honestly, I can't tell you how excited I am. I think all of these changes, stuff like this for Byzantines, stuff like this for HRE, the meta in the new season is going to be completely different. Adding these new two civilizations is going to mix everything up. I literally cannot wait. So I know this is a bit of a long one. I really wanted to dig into it myself. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you've made it this far, in the comments, can you just comment, I'm a camel lover? And then I know you've watched the video all the way to the end. I really appreciate you and all the support I've been getting. It's great. And honestly, with this next season, I'm pumped to get back on the horse, back on the camel. We're going to be casting games. We're going to be doing some build orders, some guides. We're going to be seeing my HYPPEE gameplay. I literally cannot wait. But thanks for sticking around. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're excited for the DLC, and I'll see you next time.